and welcome to this episode of Transformational Leadership TV. I'm your host, Genesis Eakes, and in this episode, I had the opportunity to interview Shallon Mugabe. And Shallon is the founding partner of the Franklin Institute of Leadership and Public Management located in the country of Uganda. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting Shallon through the Maxwell Leadership Foundation, and I am so excited to introduce you to this transformational leader. Shallon is somebody who embodies how one person's growth can create a ripple effect that literally touches the lives of thousands. Now, as Shallon shares her story today, you're going to discover how her quest for mentorship and personal growth in her role as a public servant led her to experience a Maxwell transformation table. And that experience inspired her to pay it forward in a way that is impacting her country in a positive way. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Shallon. Hello, Shallon. Welcome to this episode of Transformational Leadership TV. I am so excited that you are able to join us today, and I've been so looking forward to this conversation. Tell people a little bit about who you are, where you're located in the world, and just tell us a little bit about your bio. Who is Shallon?
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Genesis. I'm very glad to tell my story. We don't always have an audience to tell the story because sometimes we think it's not a big story, but that you give my story time, I am grateful. So thank you. Thank you, my friend. My name is Shallon Mugabe. I am a mother of three. I'm a wife. I am married to a pastor, and my full-time employment is with a public service. For all my life, which is my career life, which spans over 19 years, I have served the public. First, the public service in Uganda, and now the public service in East Africa. Uganda is in Africa. It is located in East Africa. And East Africa has been growing for the past about 25 years into an economic bloc that we hope eventually will be a political federation. So for the past 1 year, I changed my jobs from the Uganda Public Service and joined the East African community that covers 8 countries of East Africa, including Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Somalia, South Sudan, DRC. So the 8 countries currently form the East African community, and that is the organization that I work for currently. Before then, I worked for the Parliament of Uganda. My story begins indeed in Uganda. I started my career right after graduation as a teacher, as a lecturer at the university where I was studying. And I interacted with students just after I had been a student. So many times we behaved like equals. I remember the days they would walk me to my apartment after an evening lecture because they felt we were equals, we were like age mates. And then I developed a connection with the students before I left the university and then joined the Parliament of Uganda. While at the Parliament of Uganda, I was attached to a supervisor who mentored me really and helped me to get the hang of public management and service. But before long, my first elevation to the next level, to a supervisory level, she left. She left the country, she left the organization. And from then on, I started to stagger, sometimes not knowing where to go because there were no structures for leadership development, for mentorship. And so I knew that I needed a mentor, I needed someone to guide me. I started looking for opportunities for me to grow. I looked for fellowships, I looked for scholarships, any opportunity that would help me to grow as a leader. In the absence of anyone holding my hand, I took it up. It was in search of that I did a number of fellowships. And then in my search, I landed at the Maxwell team. I attended a mastermind class, then decided that I was going to get certified. Then why did I join the Maxwell team? I wanted to grow as a leader. But as time went by, it became apparent that there were many people that were like me. They wanted to grow, they wanted leadership, mentorship, they wanted to learn the ways of leadership, and they had no opportunity. And so in 2021, when I returned, I certified as a Maxwell coach in 2016. I also attended another fellowship in the US. It is called the Mandela Washington Fellowship. It is sponsored by the US State Department. I did both at the same time because it was the same time that I was hungry to learn. So on return, I started what I called Learn to Lead. And who was my audience? My students at Makerere University. I started teaching them. I started sharing experience both from the fellowship, and now that I was a certified coach, I started teaching what I had learned. I wrote a book highlighting the values up until that time that had shaped my growth, and I published it in the book, I Was Born to Lead. Thereafter, COVID hit and I could not do the physical sessions. And so I decided that now, apart from the university students, I did it for my team at work. I started doing sessions every week. I met my team and I took them through the 15 laws of growth, real success. We would finish one mastermind and then start on another. When I joined Maxwell, for me, I wanted to grow as a person. I wanted to scale the heights in my career. My intention was not to grow others. But over time, it became apparent that I had to grow someone else. One, there was need, but secondly, it is the only way I was going to actually increase my own growth. So I was just giving it to my team. 3 years into that, my position changed. I was transferred from the position I was holding in that organization and put into a new position, a new department where I had no team. Now it was time for me to look for my own team. The previous teams, apart from the students that I was going back to because I had been their teacher, now the team I was leading in my organization had been given to me, and now it was taken away from me. And so I put out a call and I asked anyone who wanted to learn leadership. And I started by doing one webinar per month. It was blended. So the first hour, I would teach from Maxwell content. The next hour, I would host a guest or we would teach public management using even the technical content that we have in public management.
I was just curious. So when you first started doing these webinars, just making sure that I'm following your story here, that you were offering it to any public managers because that was your background. Is that kind of how that started?
Yes, I was giving it to people who were like me, looking for a mentor, looking for someone to hold their hand, looking for leadership growth, but they didn't have it. And that is the place where I had experience. So I wanted to mentor public managers. I also wanted to give them a platform to express themselves, but also to grow. I was creating a platform that would benefit the Shallon who wanted to grow but didn't know where to go. Before I put out the call, I asked God what he wanted me to give to his people. And that morning after prayer, the Lord led me to Change Your World. And I went to the website of Change Your World. Lo and behold, it was a gold mine. It is then that I learned on the website that I could do both the mastermind, but I could also do the tables. So I asked the alumni to return, and I told them, if you want to do what I have been doing with you for the last 12 months, sign up as an alumni. 10 of the 60 signed up, and I took them through a Change Your World table. 12 weeks of transformation is what we called it. That was the mothership.
For people that might not know what a Change Your World or a transformation table is, can you explain that to them? So I love how you told the people that didn't know that you were inviting to join you. You said, hey, it's going to be 12 weeks of transformation. Can you explain that a little bit more? Like what do people experience?
All right, so I go into the Change Your World website and I find their first 6 values at the values table for 6 weeks, and then another 6 values in the action table. So in total, 12 values that people could go through week after week, discuss and apply, report, evaluate themselves, rate themselves, and then report the next week as they report on what they committed to as they handle the next value. So we did the values table, and so we did the 6 weeks of the values table, and then we did the 6 weeks of the action table. After the action table, then that site then would open what was called the Action Center. I love that Action Center, but I'm not going to talk about it more yet. Let me return to after we did I facilitated a table for 12 weeks, values and then action table. I told the 10 I started with that this that we've been doing, I now would like you to do it with our next cohort, which was now coming on board for the next year. We had about 150 that we had brought in. So we continued with our monthly sessions, public management, and the leadership that I would give them as a certified team member. And then my alumni, whom we now call Franklin ambassadors, were doing the weekly values tables. So we started with 10 tables. I had gone through the table with 10 facilitators. So in 2023, we finished 10 tables. Between 12 and 15 people were attending each of the tables. In 2024, our numbers grew from the 10 tables to 25 tables because the cohort of 2024, we received 519 applications. We could not accommodate all of them, so we went for 200. We only enrolled 200 participants and then put them into 25 tables, which we just concluded. Now, at the end of the 12 weeks of transformation, remember I earlier talked about the Action Center? In the Action Center were many plans of what you could do to pay forward for your community, to apply what you had learned, a number of them, including Beyond Success, NGOs, running a business. Now, for us, we chose to do I Lead. That public managers who have gone through Change Your World and they have seen the impact it has had on them should also pay forward by choosing a school and introducing a leadership program, which by this time was I Lead. We found I Lead in the Action Center. And so I began to prepare the teams and to tell them we are going to schools. Each of the tables, by that time there were 10, we look for a school and we will facilitate you, go to that school and start tables just like we have been doing here.
Okay, let me just interrupt right here because I think this is beautiful. So it sounds like part of your journey was that you got impacted by there was a lack of leadership development and personal growth in your life. So you went on a search to find some resources and ability to be able to grow yourself, to be able to get the leadership development that you were looking for. You found some of those resources within the Maxwell Leadership Enterprise, and then you took what you had received, and it was that program, and it sounded like one other program, probably more than that. And then you started going, you know what, I'm not the only one that is lacking in leadership development and some personal growth opportunities. So then you just started giving what you had received. You're like, okay, this is what I'm learning. This is what that's been impacting me. And you just started opening up the opportunity to be able to give that out, first of all, with your team. And then when you no longer had a team that was reporting directly to you, you kind of started opening it up to the public at large, and in particular, people in your sector, which was public managers, right? And then you found another tool that is called the Change Your World Transformation Tables, which is just a personal growth and leadership development tool that's easily scalable within organizations, communities, countries, and it's being utilized all over the world. And so when you found this tool and this opportunity, you started using that one with these groups. And then if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like you did it with this small group first, and then the expectation was that they would then start pouring out to more adults that were coming in, more public managers. As your cohort started growing, you went from like 60 and like 10 tables, and now all of a sudden you're at a couple of hundred, and you're you're actually raising up leaders, which is phenomenal. You're actually raising up leaders and multiplying that out. And now, this part in the story, you're saying, you know what, it was not just enough for us to pour into other public managers, but then you took it into the community at large by adopting schools and the leadership development and utilizing the tool that was provided for you guys. You utilize the iLead curriculum. It's also a Maxwell Leadership Foundation material that is given to anyone, basically cost-free. It's something that any school can utilize. And you guys started utilizing this program that just has content that's appropriate for students. So taking the content that was appropriate for adults, and your guys are in there, and now you're utilizing content that's applicable for students. And now pick up that part of the story. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I think I got all of those pieces. Did I miss any steps, or is that a good recap so far?
That's accurate. Thank you, Genesis. You know, you get carried away, and then you are not even recounting. Will I be understood? Because it's your story, you get carried away. So thank you. You got it. That is a perfect summary of what it is. So we asked our public managers to also do something to help to choose a community where we are going to give back and to help grow their leadership, and we chose the students. So in 2023, we sent out our teams and we reached 10 schools. Mm-hmm. At that time, we did not have hard copy iLead manuals. And then I made a trip to the IMC. I had either written to Maxwell on the website, on the Change Your World website, asking for how to access these resources in hard copy. Because our students back generally in Africa, but specifically in Uganda at that time, and even now, do not have access to computing gadgets and internet. We were able to access Change Your World as professionals because people are working, they have access to resources, they have computers or smartphones, but they can also afford internet. So that was easier with the public managers, but not so with the students. On the website, there was Unit 1 of I Choose. I Choose is one of the part of the curriculum of iLead. So the first year does I Choose, and it has Unit 1. It's the only one that was on the website. And then I realized that after you finished that, you would access another, but our students couldn't. For me, I could, and my public managers could. So when I made that trip to the US to meet the person who I had been responding to on email, representing the organization, I met Genesis, and my request was, how can I get hard copies of this content? And she gave me PDF copies. By God's design, I believe, I also met two people apart from Genesis. I went to the IMC with one of the purposes to meet the person I had been communicating with concerning iLead. Then I met Hassan Chivirango of Rwanda and my friend Betty Byanyima of Uganda. The very desire I had, the heart for iLead, is what they had. And I knew that this had been a divine appointment. So we formed a group. I immediately formed a WhatsApp group and started asking, what do I do? Because Rwanda had gone before me, Hassan was very instrumental in helping me on. Anytime I would send a message, what do I do with this manual? What do I do with the launch? What do I do? And how do I report? And all that. And then I returned to Uganda. September, October, we prepared the schools. In January, we launched. We enrolled about 3,000 students, January, February 2024. And eventually, we are monitoring to see how many of those are going to reach the finish line. So far, the schools are supposed to have finished Unit 2, and they are now on holiday. This month, at the end of this month, they are going for Term 3, and in Term 3, we think we should handle Unit 3 and Unit 4, such that by the end of 2024, we have some students, we will know how many by that time we'll have completed, I choose Units 1 up to Unit 4. That is the story.
You hit on something before, that when it's your own story, sometimes you forget about the amazing impact. And I don't want people to miss the fact that you had these public managers. They're not trained educators. They're trained in, they're public servants, and they have their own career and all of that. But they spent time learning and growing themselves. And then they decided to give back and to adopt a school, adopt a community that they live in. And oh my goodness, you guys have impacted the lives of 3,000 students. Now, to the extent I get that you guys are still in the process of figuring out how many are going to stick with the program all the way through, but 3,000 students that you are pouring into with leadership development and personal growth is amazing. And I just don't want to, yes, I know there's more to this story, but that's huge. That's huge, because that's pouring into the future leaders of people in your country, in Uganda. And it's something that, if I think back to myself when I was in school age, I would have loved to have had the opportunity, in addition to learning math and history and grammar and science and things like that, if there had been a course that really taught me how to interact with people and to grow myself and to become a leader in my own right, that would have just been amazing for me. It was something I had to find much later in life. I didn't even have it at the university level. It was something that, I kind of had to search out, just like you were saying that you did. And so the gift that you are providing is incredible. So I just want to make sure that we just pause for a moment and just recognize that the beautiful impact that you're having. So how many adults are a part of your program right now?
Since we started with the Change Your World transformation tables, we must have exceeded 400 adults, because we started with 150, now we did 200. But also, apart from going to the schools to do iLead, when people finish, some of them start tables in their organizations. Now, for those we haven't had a tracking system to know how many have started tables when they got out of our program. But I know that some have. For example, when I changed my jobs from the public service in Uganda and came to the East African community in Arusha, I did a table which included Tanzanians, South Sudanese, Kenyans, a Ugandan. We had 5 countries represented on that table at the East African community. And so that is not recorded, just like I'm asking my public managers, please, when you go back to the organization, start a table. And I believe that there are many others we can't account for. But I believe confidently that approximately 400 adults have already gone through this. But here is the avenues of the story that is growing. So we go into schools and we launch the I Lead Students program. And then our teachers, whom we call sponsors because they coordinate and supervise the program in the schools, keep asking us for something for their own growth, just like their students, because they see the change, they see the difference that is happening in the students. And so they keep asking us, is there something for us as teachers? Because all we do, we are like midwives. We deliver, I lead, we supervise, I lead, but we also desire to grow. And so we have recruited about 300 teachers who are now going to go through the Change Your World transformation tables. And guess what? Starting today.
Wow.
Our first session, which is the induction session, is happening today.
Wow.
We have also another 24 to 25 tables of teachers only. Who is facilitating the tables? I already have an army of the Franklin ambassadors who, it's as if their job is to just replicate this. They have become such an instrumental team that we simply have to say, which other area do we now need to focus on? And we put out a call and we bring them on board and then we put them in the tables. It has become part of our structure as Franklin. In fact, it's part of our DNA. You are part of the Franklin Institute, you will experience the transformation through those tables. We will ensure you go through it. We will encourage you to multiply that effect. So tonight, we start on a journey of transformation. Approximately 300 teachers. Those are the ones that we enrolled. Now, today and in the days that follow, we'll be able to confirm how many will finish the tables because they expressed interest. That is the story of transformation. Next year, after this, my cohort that did 25 tables, they have now finished those tables, about 200 of them. They have reached out to 50 schools and we limited them because we cannot afford to go beyond that. Some of them wanted to go to 5 schools at each table, but we limited them. We said you cannot do more than 2 schools per table. So a table of 10 people, 10 adults, takes responsibility of a school. And we are saying, why do you have capacity, you as ambassadors, to bring on board even 10 schools? We as an organization, the Franklin Institute of Leadership, we will not be able to manage that. We have to pace it in such a way that we don't overwhelm ourselves. But we already have 50 schools where our ambassadors have already made ties. And this time is for us to make relationships with the school, find out how many students they have, talk to find out who will be the teachers that will be coordinating the program. We go with the book I told you about, I Was Born to Lead. We share the values in that book. We prepare ground to run in the new year in January. And that is what is going on right now. Our ambassadors are now going to the schools they have identified, and then in January, when we have done the analysis that indeed the school will be ready for us, we go to a school that invites us. We don't impose ourselves on any schools. Then in January, we believe that we will be able to go into those schools to add them to the 10 that we already visited last year.
That's
I
amazing.
want to quickly say
Yes.
that if I had thought through how much resources are needed for this transformation, maybe I would have been threatened. But guess what? 2 years into the program is going on with resources that people give. We do not pay any ambassador for anything. That is free mentorship, free labor given by ambassadors. Why? Because they have got this and they are very anxious. Pass it on. I would tell anyone, wherever they are, if they desire it, they should simply put their foot forward, follow it with another, and leave the results to God. Do what you can do. If you get the lesson, pass it on. That's what I did. I believe that's what my ambassadors are doing. They've picked it, they are passing it on, and they are multiplying the impact. That's the story of transformation that is budding in East Africa, starting with Uganda. We are still at the start of it because it's still in its infancy. And I believe that very soon, God willing, we will cover mileage. If it works in Uganda, it will work in East Africa, and it can work anywhere else. That's my belief. That's my faith. And I'm willing to give it my best and my all to see it happen.
That is so beautiful, Shallon. Thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing just your vision and your dream. And I think it really and truly is as simple as what you said. It starts with that dream, and you don't have to know all of the how. You just take the next step. And it's amazing how resources and people and things just start becoming more clear as you start taking those actions forward. And I love seeing the multiplication and the impact that you guys are having in Uganda and exporting to all of East Africa and really around the world. So thank you for being a transformational leader. Thank you for sharing your story and just for adding so much value to us today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of Transformational Leadership TV. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Shallon as much as I did. You know, what strikes me the most about Shallon's journey was her vision to empower other people to make a difference. The impact that her and her team are having on the next generation is just amazing. So now it's your turn, because transformational leaders don't just see problems. We're motivated to take action and do something about it. So think about it for yourself. What's one thing that you can do this week to make a positive difference, either in yourself or in those around you? And let us know in the comments below what action you take. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can stay inspired, equipped, and challenged to change the world around you.